We've all told lies, or kept secrets, or gossiped behind someone's back. But despite the negative reputations these things hold, they're really a bit more nuanced than that. Let's take a closer look at lying. In a study done by MacArthur et al., they were looking at personality types and how that impacts lying. Someone who is very emotional tends to lie to avoid uncomfortable situations, since if they were in that situation, they would probably not handle it very well. But these kinds of people are also more likely to lie to protect the feelings of others, probably because they know how it feels. On the other hand, more extroverted people tend to lie to be funny, out of habit, or to get out of trouble. If someone is very agreeable and liked by others, then they're probably not going to tell the kinds of lies to make themselves seem better because they already feel accepted. But just because these traits correlate with certain lying patterns doesn't mean that we lie that often to begin with. Only about 6% of us are bad about lying about 6 times each day. Of course, a trustworthy person can also just have a day where they lie a lot more. What about important lies, though? How do we catch those lies? Well, throughout history, we've always been trying to figure that out. You've probably heard of the polygraph machine or lie detector as a good form of measuring lying, but in reality, there is no proof of that. Part of this is because it measures sweat level and heart rate changes, which can be caused by stress. There are many ways to spot lies beyond body functions, though. When you tell a larger lie, you're making up a story which changes your language. The first sign of this language difference is focusing on other people, not yourself. As a form of this, we don't use words like I and my nearly as often. Another sign of lying is being overall more negative. You feel bad that you're lying, and that comes through what you're saying. And lastly, we tell a very straightforward story. We do add details to try and make it more convincing, but these details are usually not important to the story. But why do we lie to begin with? Well, a lot of it comes down to secrets. On average, we each have about 5 secrets that we've never told. Keeping secrets can be a wild ride, both good or bad. According to Michael Slepian, a researcher who did a decade of research on secrets, the hard part about keeping secrets isn't actually keeping them. It's living with them as they make you feel more inauthentic and shameful than usual. But if keeping a negative secret is so bad for you, what should you do? Should you tell somebody? A couple factors can play into this. First off, will what you're keeping secret continue to happen, or was it a one-time thing? Michael Slepian says that if it will continue to happen, it's a bigger deal. Second, would who you're telling want to know, or is this solely for you? If they would want to know and for an important reason, then maybe you should tell them. But if not, then you should probably keep it to yourself, or tell an unrelated third party. However, keep in mind that not all secrets are a bad thing. Positive secrets can be fun to keep because we don't feel pressured to keep them. When keeping a negative secret, we're scared of being judged. But imagine keeping the secret of an engagement. Obviously, in some cases, this could be because you're scared of being judged, but in most cases, you're keeping it to make the surprise more exciting, simply because you can. In one study Michael Slepian did, people were asked to imagine having a positive secret. For some people, they had to imagine being unable to tell their partner the secret until later. For other people, they were asked to imagine purposefully not telling their partner until later. The second half of people reported feeling more energized than the people who had to keep their secret. This suggests that when we get to choose to keep a secret, we enjoy it more. When keeping a good secret, We also take joy in imagining the moment that we'll tell people that secret over and over again. Now you know a little bit more about the underside of our personal lives. But what about the underside of our whole entire social world? Let's take a closer look at gossip. Gossiping is no new thing. It's been constantly recorded for as long as we know. And it's still very prominent nowadays. The average person gossips a little bit less than an hour every day. When you think of gossip, you probably think of rude and selfish people. But in reality, you do it too. We all do. But gossip doesn't even have to be negative. In fact, only 15% of gossip is technically negative. Gossip, negative or positive, is a very important factor to our lives. It allows us to build complex social networks, as well as learn what is socially acceptable based on how people are talked about. And bad kinds of gossip actually have benefits that you wouldn't think of. In one study, negative gossip stimulated the prefrontal cortex more than positive gossip did. The prefrontal cortex is a huge part of how we figure out appropriate social behaviors. That is not to say that all negative gossip is good, though. When we're talking about somebody's looks in a negative way, that does not benefit us. Only talking about somebody's actions can. In one study done by Matthew Feinberg, they were aiming to figure out how gossip affects us. People were grouped up and given points that symbolized money. You could either turn that money in or keep it. If you chose to turn that money in, it would then double and be redistributed. But your decision to either be selfish or turn it in was known to everyone else. At the end of the round, everyone would then vote for one person to be removed for the next round. Obviously, the selfish ones were voted out. But one interesting thing happened. When the voted out selfish ones got to join back in, they were much more willing to share. Not only that, but the selfish people who did not get voted out were also more willing to share. Overall, this simulates how gossip works. We learn what is acceptable, and though this is not always good, we do what other people think is right. Evolutionarily, gossip came about as a survival method. To know who lived where and who ate what was very helpful back then. And we can still see this playing out today, as it helps us build and get to know our communities and everyone else around us. And we care about celebrity gossip because we know details about them, and that makes our brains think that they're important to the things happening in our lives. It also makes good small talk, as most of us hear that kind of news eventually. And so, we all gossip, keep secrets, and tell lies. But maybe that's all a little bit more complicated than good or bad.